I think I'm going to get a Right, hello, welcome to ELEVENSES. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get a stable enough signal this morning. I might be a bit jerky. I'm in a hotel room in the Peak District at the moment. As this evening, I'm giving just a 500 IAM group. So I trust this will go out. We'll see how it goes. It's not going to be a long show today, just a fairly short one, as I actually do have things to do today. So hopefully it'll go stable enough and you can hear what I'm talking about. But anyway, today's show, biker robbed at knife point on Canvey Island by two more bikers on another motorcycle. The DVSA have claimed that the missing motorcycle entitlement problem is rare, something I wouldn't be too convinced about. 400,000 drivers have been hit with school street fines in 2022, so that's another little trap to watch out for as you zip around on your motorcycle. Clevedon Council have added a weird crop circle road marking to the wiggly lines I covered a couple of weeks ago. Bell, the helmet manufacturers, have partnered with the Steve McQueen estate to produce a replica helmet. And then today's discussion point, just a quick one from something that cropped up yesterday as we drove up the motorway. Why bother to have motorway warning signs that don't actually warn you about anything meaningful? Right, Kevin's looked in. Morning to you, Kevin. Now, just a quick reminder of what's going on over the next few days. Sunday, I'll try and get something recorded for you, but it's not going to go out live because I'm going to be on an aeroplane somewhere between the UK and New Zealand as I head out for the Shiny Side Up series of events. That means the March live online talk series event has also been postponed. That goes back to the first Wednesday in April, which is Wednesday the 5th. That will be pre-performance preparation and getting ready to ride, getting your race face on, as it were. And we can use the same sort of techniques that racers use to prepare quite meaningfully for riding on the road. So that's Wednesday, 5th of April. Then the science of being seen, the full presentation, that will go out in May, 1st of May, both at 8 p.m. So everything's been pushed back a month because of my commitments out in New Zealand. Do pop over there, book up for those if you possibly can. I know I've got at least one booking for the pre-performance preparation event. And Christine's looked in. Good morning, Christine. So I know I said it would be quite a short show today, but it's partly because there's not a lot of motorcycle news. It's been a bizarrely quiet week with nothing actually much going on. But one story, again, we have a problem with theft targeting motorcyclists. And in this case, a man was actually riding his motorcycle on Canvey Island at around 1:30 a.m. on Saturday, the 4th of February. And he was actually attacked by two other people who were on another motorcycle. They pulled up alongside him. One apparently grabbed him. The other threatened him with a large knife, and he was threatened to hand over his jacket. rather bizarre before they're made off. Now, predictably, the pair were dressed in black and had their faces covered, but they were riding a white Honda, which obviously narrows things down fairly dramatically. I'm sure the police are actually out there stopping all white Hondas as we talk. Predictably, they are actually appealing for any other information, CCTV, dash cam footage, anything that might have caught people's attention, although at 1:30 a.m. I can't imagine there were many drivers out and about. Right, so car insurer Churchill, now they sent a freedom of information request to every London borough at the end of December. And what they wanted to find out was how many drivers have been caught out by London's School Streets initiative. Now, this is something that might actually have slipped your attention if you live in the capital. And as I always say when I'm talking about London-centric stories, watch out for them coming to a location near you in a not too distant future. Now, this particular scheme, the School Streets Initiative, what it does is it imposes temporary restrictions on roads where there are schools which prevent motorists from driving on them at drop-off and pick-up times. So the problem is that they've often appeared on streets with no formal restrictions, and what they stop you doing is actually entering the street at all. So there may be no entry to vehicles between certain times, or it may be, as in one scheme that went up near me, that there is a no right turn into a road at a certain time. Now, 29 boroughs responded with data, and the results are actually pretty astonishing. It seems that no less than 398,745 penalty charge notices were handed out for these schemes in 2022. Now, some of these drivers and motorcyclists presumably will have knowingly broken the rules. Many others, though, I suspect, were unaware that the restrictions were in place. They often weren't very well signposted. Literally the sign just went up at the end of the road, and if you've been driving down that road, like I have for many years, all of a sudden the sign appears and you have to be a little bit on the lucky side to spot it. It's not as if you're scanning an unknown road. The first of these school street schemes went in Camden in 2017, and the rationale's good. It's to protect children from traffic, it's to reduce air pollution around schools. But by 2022, there were approximately 400 permanent school streets in London and another 136 which were being trialled. So there are likely to be more going in the future. Now, if you want to know where the worst scheme for the worst borough for these schemes and fines is, it's Lewisham, southeast London, and there were 37,393 of these fines handed out in the last year. And the borough has just over 100 schools. 45 of them have permanent school streets, and another 4 are being trialled. So it's also the most of any borough. Not too far behind are Merton and Camden with 35,000 and 34,000 respectively. And just in case you want to know how much you'll be hit for in the wallet, it can be up to £130. Penalty halved if you pay within 14 days. Now, there's no word of how many motorcyclists actually got caught out by these schemes, but as I said, I nearly fell foul of one of those that appeared on my regular route at the bottom of the M25. A spokesman for Churchill said, "We would encourage drivers to always check road signs carefully to ensure they avoid any expensive fines." Well, that's easy advice to give, but the trouble is, as I said, when these schemes go up, there are already lots and lots of things to look at. It's more tricky than easy to spot a new street sign that's gone up making these restrictions. So I'm not always in favour of these kind of things, at least not without some proper signage. Now, another problem we've had on motorcycles over the years is vanishing motorcycle entitlements when you swap your licence over. As I've said in the past, it's something that we used to encounter fairly commonly when we ran motorcycle schools when I was a bike trainer. somebody would turn up having to take their test again because they'd discovered that their motorcycle entitlement had been left off the license, and they hadn't noticed until they tried to do something like very often rent a motorcycle, or occasionally been stopped by the police and been told they have no license. Now, in a press release entitled "Vanishing Motorcycle License Entitlements, Not a Good Look for the DVLA," the Motorcycle Action Group, MAG, says that the DVLA have confirmed that these issues are rare. And this all, of course, follows the story that a rider actually did get his license back 3 years after the DVLA had mistakenly removed it from his license. So the Motorcycle Action Group did ask the DVLA how often the mistakes happen. And DVLA responded to say that they have, quote, "a range of measures in place to ensure our records are accurate and mistakes are rare. Since August 2019, there have been 2 cases where a driver has written into the DVLA to lodge a complaint about an alleged missing motorcycle entitlement. Neither complaint was upheld." Now, frankly, I find that hard to believe. As I say, it's been a few years since I was directly involved with basic training, but it was not uncommon for us to have to take somebody back to test several times a year, and this is just one school in the whole of the UK. Now, it's possible, of course, that the DVSA, they were the DVSA, they were the DSA then, of course. It's possible they're up their game and they have reduced the number of errors that they make, but I'm sort of not entirely convinced. DVSA do say if a driver thinks they're missing an entitlement from their current driving license, they need to return the license to Swansea. The driver will need to include a covering letter which should contain what entitlement is missing when the test was passed, and provide the DVLA with as much information as possible along with any evidence they hold. We'd also advise customers to take a copy of their driving license for their own records before sending it to the agency. That's new advice as far as I know from the DVSA, and they said then they'll be able to carry out a thorough investigation. Now, the bad news is that it seems that even if they do carry out a thorough investigation, you don't actually have much entitlement, much chance of getting your entitlement back. But the sooner that you check it when you receive it, if you spot the error immediately, I think there is a much better chance of them fixing it for you. Right, okay, don't forget, this is Survival Skills. It is going out live today. If you are going to be looking for a show on Sunday, I'll see what I can get out for you. It will depend entirely on how busy I am on Friday, basically, because we're off to catch a plane fairly early Saturday morning, so I won't have a lot of time. But I'll try and get something out, and over the coming weeks while I'm in New Zealand, again, I'll try to get something out on a fairly regular basis for you. So, okay, couple of other stories, quick stories before we carry on and back to work. Now, where were we? I do have a picture somewhere for you, which I seem to manage to forget to put up again. It's Clevedon. We're back in Clevedon. You may recall that a few weeks ago I was looking at some rather strange wiggly lines. Here we go. We should be able to get that up any minute. That appeared along the seafront in the town. Now, the locals described the whole thing as confusing and dangerous, and there's a new painted circle appeared, and this is it. The campaign group Save Our Seafront says that this weird circle appeared in the dead of night and has replaced giveaway lines at the junction, where you can see there's some appears to have been some resurfacing going on. Certainly the yellow lines appear to have been resurfaced, and there's obviously work going on the pavements as well by the look of it. So Kathy Hawkins, she's the spokesperson for Save Our Seafront. She said the curving lines on Clevedon Seafront were Mickey Mouse crazy, but this crop circle is even worse. Causing confusion to drivers is never a clever idea. Another local said the removal of the giveaway lines from the junction could lead to an accident, and that a mini roundabout should leave sufficient room for vehicle to drive around. He also commented the council is making up these road markings, that they don't conform to national legal standards. Now, North Somerset Council They said it was part of a new roundabout layout, which is intended to help control the flow and speed of traffic and improve safety. And they say that a buff surface, presumably they don't mean fit, they actually mean colour, will be applied to the circle in the spring. Well, why not now, seeing as I've just painted it now? And the vehicles will be able to drive over it, which rather begs the question of why put it in the first place. So the first thing to say is this is not a roundabout, even though the council say they should treat it like a roundabout by giving way to other road users. Well, who to? If it's not a roundabout, it doesn't have any legal force. It's clearly possible to drive around that. You're going to have to drive over it. The giveaway lines take away any idea of precedence. So basically, it becomes a no priority junction. Now, you will come across these. They're surprisingly common on minor roads, of course, when you just get a couple of lanes meet each other. You'll find no road markings there. So basically, nobody actually has priority. So it's a case of slowing down and then looking at each other and working it out for yourselves. If you meet someone else, you'll also find them in urban environments, very often on housing estates. But basically, no marking, no priority. So if you come up to something like this, you don't have to give way to a car, right? Though it would probably make an awful lot of sense. But equally, if you are the vehicle that's approaching from the right, don't expect the car from your left to give way to you. With no priority, anybody can go any direction at any time, and that is the problem with these kind of road junctions. There's a bunch of in Oxford, as it happens, by the railway station. Clive says good morning, and that he hopes I'm having a great trip. Well, I'm up in the Peak District, ready to go and talk to the people over in Manchester later today. So yeah, we're getting there. It's a bit hectic, a bit frantic, but all going well so far. Right, on with the news again. Last year I mentioned that Harley-Davidson were making a big thing of a strong fourth quarter of 2022 to downplay their otherwise disappointing annual results. Well, not too surprising, the Indian motorcycle, who have had some reasonable low-digit growth over the past year. They haven't been too slow in coming forwards to compare their own modest growth with what they called the comparable motorcycle industry, basically saying they're doing better than Harley. Whoops, I didn't want to put that up again. That was the wrong button. Yeah, so where else? Well, over to America again. Bell Helmets have announced a partnership with the Steve McQueen estate to launch a series of helmets and clothing which are paying homage, they say, to the screen icon. And the first helmet in the series is a replica of the one that McQueen actually wore whilst competing in the 1964 International 6 Days Trials off-road event. He was a pretty solid rider, so he represented the US then. It was the first group of Americans who actually took part in that particular competition, and Bell say they are excited to partner with the McQueen estate on what they call an iconic helmet, and as they claim to be the first to name in helmets, they say it only makes sense that they bring life to this 6-day racing replica, a golden era of motorcycling that both McQueen and Bell helped to shape. So in terms of shape, it's not actually a full replica. It's based on Bell's current custom 500 helmet, which, as you said, pays respects to the original Bell open face. The McQueen replica gets that same blue, white and red colour scheme that you can see there. It's the same as the original one that Steve McQueen wore during that competition. And it's got Steve added on it in what is described as a playful font on the back. You also get a special 278 decal, which features Steve McQueen's name and the 1964 ISDT details, a special keychain featuring his name, all shipped in a black leather helmet bag. How much are you going to pay for that? Well, I thought the price would be astronomical, but it's actually I wouldn't say a cheap £199.99, but at least it's affordable, I guess. So with your spare cash, you'll no doubt be dashing out to invest in the limited run of apparel featuring imagery of McQueen, which is only going to be available for a very short time, according to the press release. Right, so as I said, it's going to be fairly short today. So something that cropped up yesterday, actually, we were driving up the M1 and did a quick stop in Chesterfield on the way to have a quick look around at the church and the bent spire. And one of the things about the M1 is that most of it is now hard shoulder removed, so it's the so-called smart motorway. Adding the extra running lane, has it reduced the busyness on the road? Well, dubious. We weren't travelling at the heaviest time, but it was still pretty damn busy. But something that really cropped up yesterday that really made my blood boil, to be honest. The warning signs that you see on gantries are supposed to tell you about hazards ahead. And yesterday's experiences, they simply don't do the job they are supposed to do. So first of all, we encountered a couple of these gantries with the matrix sign lit up to say obstruction reported ahead. Now, what the hell does that actually mean? Think about it. It's reported. So is it there? Somebody told them it is, but have they actually checked? They've got CCTV. They should be able to see every inch of the motorway. They should be able to confirm whether or not there is an obstruction somewhere ahead. And if they've done that and they have confirmed it's there, why say reported? Why not just say obstruction ahead? And where? It gives you absolutely no spatial awareness of when you're going to encounter this problem. They know where it is, they know where the sign is, they know what the distance between the two is, they can tell the driver that. How difficult would it be to say obstruction 2 miles ahead? And then I can look at my trip meter and I know where I am. I know how far ahead 2 miles is because I'm watching the dial go round, and I know roughly where I'll encounter the hazard. That will give me genuine usable information. And of course, as we drove forward, in neither case was there an obstruction. So we got a warning sign and then nothing. Why not change the message to say obstruction cleared? And then the people who've passed the sign that says obstruction ahead will know that actually it's not there anymore. They won't be scanning down the road wondering where on earth it is. The other thing that they tend to do is they put these signs on way in advance of where they're actually needed. So I was on the M2 one evening. I was headed down to Rochester back in the days when I was still delivering biker down there. And I came across one of these signs saying pedestrians in road. Well, predictably, I didn't encounter any pedestrians in road. They'd obviously gone long before I got there. But I think it was something like 4 miles that these signs were showing. So clearly, pedestrians are travelling at walking pace, and even me riding the motorcycle, I was on the CB250, so I wasn't going very fast, covering a mile a minute. It's still going to take me 4 minutes or something from the first one I see to where they're likely to be. So we need better information than just obstruction reported ahead, and then to discover actually there isn't one there. Also noticed about the motorway was that the gantries which cover all 4 lanes to give you the red X, which is supposed to tell you that a lane is blocked, there are extended different distances between them. They really are far too far apart to be reliable, in my opinion. And anyway, there we were driving along, and as I say, looking for these obstructions, trying to maintain a line of sight ahead of me, but hoping other drivers didn't cut in front, so I lost that line of sight. Also hoping, of course, that everybody behind me was staying far enough back, so if the traffic all slowed down very suddenly, they wouldn't run straight into the back of us. No hazards. And then there we are on a stretch of motorway, nothing lit up, no warnings at all, and without any alert at all, there is an HGV on hazards on the inside lane, stationary. No signs, no red X, no obstruction reported ahead, no, nothing, nada. Just there, stopped in a live running lane, and the only reason I saw it was uncloaked by an HGV that pulled out to pass it. I hadn't actually seen it up to that point, and it was probably, I don't know, 300 meters, 400 meters ahead, which is a bit too close for comfort, frankly. And as we drove past it, there was a car stopped in front. So I have no idea what was going on there. I was just thankful I was already a lane out. I rarely use the inside lane on roads like this for that reason. And we actually had a big enough gap in front of us so that the trucker who did pull out actually moved out in good time and not into the space I was intending to use. And I honestly say this simply isn't safe, despite the protestations of people who really, I think, should know better, who claim these roads have fewer crashes than conventional motorways. I struggle to come to terms with those statements. Right, okay, so a couple of comments here. Kevin says he probably won't be buying a Steve McQueen lid. Yeah, probably with you on that one. And Paul says agreed on the lack of value of some messages on the gantries. And he says he's yet to travel on the section of Smart through Northampton where the speed limit is set other than 60. Now, actually, funnily enough, that was something that Judy commented on yesterday. She was driving at the time as we passed through there. And as Paul says, I can understand it at peak times, but when the volume of traffic is lighter, I have no idea why. There was one bit where there were cones out for a few hundred meters. But yeah, the rest of it, it just seems to be set permanently on 60. Possibly intended to reduce emissions, says Paul. That's maybe it. I don't know. All right, that's it for today. As I said, very short show. I will try to let you know what's going on Sunday as soon as I can. Apart from that, nothing else to say except it's all a bit hectic as I try to get my presentation finalised. So, all right, if you are out there on your bikes today, and it's a lovely, lovely sunny day up here in the peaks, hopefully it'll stay nice and clear all the way over to Manchester, where I'm talking to the IAM group this evening. Hopefully, if you are out there on your bikes, you will stay shiny side up. Thanks for looking in. I'm Kevin Williams. This has been Elevenses, and I will see you very soon indeed. Take care.